Nikola Jokic is probably the most selfless player on our team. He's a guy that even came to me and says, "Coach, I don't want to start anymore. I just want to win." He's one of the few guys on our team that if I can pull him out of the starting lineup, he's not going to be upset and pout, and I give him a lot of credit and respect for that. Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Fantrax and Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and as always you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball. We're here for Sunday's podcast. We're going to be reviewing the 11 games on Saturday, previewing the smaller slate on Sunday. Lots to talk about, starting lineup changes, injuries, all that sort of crap going on. So lots to talk about. The monstrous line of the night. Jim Butler, big night from Butler, and I think the thing that's so frustrating. I was down on Butler, and I used his ADP on Yahoo as a real, not a target, but like, why would you ever draft him at pick 9? Because he's going to be stuck with these two guys who want the ball in their hands, and their names are Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade. And I was down on Jim Butler for this reason, because this is the way these two guys have played. But Butler was magnificent. 38 minutes, 37 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals. He was 14 of 14 from the line. He went 11 of 23 from the field. He hit a 3. And you know why he was able to do this? Because he was able to run the team. Because Rajon Rondo is a stinker. He is a terrible starting quality NBA. Well, he's not starting quality. He's a terrible starting point guard in the NBA. And Fred Hoiberg, he's got some balls. He's sitting him down the stretch. And when you're getting sat down so that Isaiah Cannon can play, there are a lot of issues. But what it means is that we get Jim Butler playing Jim Harden's role, the two Jims. The shooting guard wing, who is the point guard. And it is working brilliantly. Rondo is as illogical a player for this team, or for any team really in today's NBA than I've seen. Wade, I understand the situation. But this is what Butler can do, and I was skeptical of him doing it because I didn't think Hoiberg would have the balls to take Rondo out of the game, or that Rondo would cede possessions. Now he hasn't really ceded a huge amount of possessions, but the ball's being forced out of his hand by him sitting his ass on the bench. So fantastic stuff from Butler. This is what he can do. This is how it's best for him. Now what do the Bulls do with Rondo moving forward? I don't know. I don't know if Hoiberg will just say, we're just not starting you anymore, we're not finishing with you, we're playing you 25 a night. I don't know what's going to happen with Rondo. I had someone ask me the other day about Rondo. What do we do with Rondo? Do we hold on to him, or do we just wait until Hoiberg's fired until he picks it up again? And my response to that, I know this is not a Rondo segment, but my response to that is I think Hoiberg's the only person that's keeping Rondo actually marginally relevant. This is not a case of Hoiberg misusing Rondo. This is a case of Hoiberg finally realising, hey, this is probably best for our team to not use Rajon Rondo. And that's exactly what's happening. And Butler's thriving. So if that continues to be the case, Butler's value is going to soar. Because he's going to have the ball in his hands. He's going to run things exactly like this team should have decided to do in pre-season. It's exactly what they should have done. But no, Gal Foreman, John Paxson, you know better than everybody else in the NBA. And I'm a Bulls fan. And I love when stupid decisions go wrong. And Rajon Rondo is a stupid decision. And there's plenty of other them. Shout out to all the Orlando Magic fans out there. Plenty of stupid decisions that go down in the NBA. And this is one of them. But let's see how Hoiberg handles it. He's handled it correctly so far in this game. And 2 games ago, he did the same thing. And it allows Butler to really thrive. And he's had a very, very strong stretch, Butler, over the last week and a half to 2 weeks. He is pushing top 10 value during that time, putting up some really, really big numbers, which is obviously impressive. For the season, he's ranked 11th. You're going at 24, 5.5 and 4.2 with 2 steals a game on 48%. Now, I imagine the 48 and 43% from the field and from 3 respectively will fall. I don't think there's any doubt about that, and that'll drop his points down from 24 and his threes down from 1.6. But the fact that he's handling the ball that little bit extra with those 4.2 assists, which is still down on what he did last season, but there's scope for him to actually get better than this even when his efficiency drops. So Butler owners, you should be pretty happy if you took that gamble. Hopefully you didn't take him at pick 9. Although if you did, it's looking pretty good at the moment. But there is a chance that the efficiency does start to drop off, and he does fall over a little bit in that sense. But he could also get more of the ball in his hands, more assists, and that'll actually be a real positive for the Chicago Bulls. But we don't know exactly if that's how they're going to do it. I'm not shocked. I think that's the wrong word. I'm really, really, really happy that I can use the Bebe Nogueira jersey over my left shoulder. Man, I'm bad at these directions. I can actually put up a Bebe Nogueira jersey behind me, and it's because he won one of the awards of the night. I have been telling you that this guy is good for a couple of years, and it makes me feel pretty, not good, but it makes me go, hey, you know what, maybe I'm not a complete idiot, and maybe I do have some idea about what these players are like, because Bebe's a good player. He's a really good player, and he was going to fill this Bismack Biyombo role. That's why I don't think that Biyombo is that good of a player, and Bebe couldn't sort of step in and do a similar thing. And he's been brilliant these last 3 games. 6 points, 10 boards for Bebe, 3 steals and 5 blocks, and a perfect 3 of 3 from the field. It doesn't really get much better than that for a backup centre. Now, Jonas Valanciunas has been limited these last 2 games. They're low 20s in minutes. I don't think this is standard Dwayne Casey, let's screw him around style. I think it's maybe, he's come back from the knee, it's a back-to-back, let's limit him. But should be zero doubt in your mind that Bebe is going to be the backup centre now. Jakob Poeltl, we'll see you at Raptors 905. There should be zero doubt that Bebe is the backup centre, and that means you 16-team leaguers, you should have already been gone. 14-team leaguers, you have to consider. I see some people going, maybe in a 12-team league I grab Bebe. Now, I'm not sure he's going to get high 20s in minutes every game moving forward. That feels like a little bit of a stretch at this point, but who knows? I guess he played 26 minutes here, and the defensive stuff was really, really good. And it wasn't that Valanciunas was bad. He went 13 and 8 with a steal and a block in his playing time. But Bebe, that's a huge performance from him. He's owned in 4% of leagues. So I said that 16-team leagues he's probably snapped up. Maybe he's not. Anything deeper than 16, it's an automatic ad for Bebe. Automatic. And even in 14-team leagues, if he's going to continue to play a 20-minute role, we've seen this guy is good. And I know, I'll say 98% of people listening to this podcast doubted me and said, Josh, Bebe Nogueira, seriously. I know you doubted me. I know most of you did. But watch a Raptors game. Watch one of these last 3 games. This dude is good. He is really good. And he is right. He's that good that I bought a Bebe Nogueira jersey. He is very much up there on the Josh is my boy list. And finally, we're you know what? It's his 3rd season. Here it comes. We are seeing something really start to develop with him. Again, this is probably high water mark. I don't think that he is going to retain 12-team value, really. I don't think they're going to play him more minutes than Jonas moving forward, and you will see him drop down to a 20-minute role. But man, it could be useful. It could be, it's definitely going to be streamable. You'll definitely have value there. Hey, I need rebounds and blocks. Let's get Bebe in. That'll work. 14-teamers, you should definitely be looking at him. And we're going to see across the NBA, there's a few big men sort of putting their hand up and showing that there's a few little things, a few little tricks they've got up their sleeves. Bebe this season is ranked, and you're gonna think that I'm talking shit. He is the 20th ranked player this season. 20th. Yes, it comes in 4 games, and yes, they are without Valanciunas playing his full amount of times. There was 2 games with Jonas, 2 games without. But he's ranked 20th. 8.3 points, 7.3 rebounds, almost 2 steals, 2.5 blocks, shooting 88% from the field and 75% from the line. Now, most of this stuff's not going to stick. The steal rate's not going to stick, although that's not far off his per 36s from last season. The block rate is probably not going to stick, but this is what he did over the last 2 months of last season. Similarly, the 88% from the field, there's no way that sticks. But the free throw percentage, I do believe that he can be an improved free throw shooter. He's not going to be the 20th guy. He's not a must-own 12-team league guy. But if you want to have an option to grab someone, and maybe he sticks, maybe he plays 24 a night, maybe they go back to a minute share with Valanciunas, which again would be dumb, but it's Dwayne Casey, so anything's possible, I guess. But really, this guy is he's turning it on in a pretty significant manner. If you want to hear about a big a big swathe of my boys up in Toronto listen to Locked On Raptors with Sean Woodley. They'll be talking Bebe. They'll also be talking my other boy, Norm Powell, who finally moved into the starting lineup. I know it was because of Damari Carroll's rest days, but I challenge you. Sean, if you're listening to this, I challenge you, Sean. Norm Powell's a better player than Damari Carroll. I said it 50 times over the off-season. The Raptors are better with him in the starting lineup, and he is a better player than Damari Carroll. I don't know if they'll realise that. I don't know if they'll stick with that. But Norm Powell is a better player than Damari Carroll. I say some dumb things at times. Fair enough. I'm sticking by this. He is a better player than Sean Woodley. Not sure. Sean Woodley, I don't know what you're like. You're the host of Locked On Raptors. Not sure how good a player you are. Norm Powell is a better player than Damari Carroll. And when he was completely out of the rotation at the start of the season, any sort of respect I had for Dwayne Casey's coaching ability, it was marginal at best, but it evaporated pretty quickly. This is what they need to keep doing. The young gun of the night, Miles Turner. No Paul George, he got a little bit of an extra look there. 17 and 8 with an assist. Big defensive night from Turner as well. 4 steals, 3 blocks, perfect 5 of 5 from the line, and he went 6 of 8 from the field. He'd been threatening some pretty decent games, but the minutes really hadn't been there for him recently. But still, he's ranked just outside the top 20, only just pipped by Bebe Nogueira in the rankings in 27 minutes, and that needs to go up. 15 and 7, 1.1 steals, 2.5 blocks on 56 and 82, and that's where the real value, or some of the real value of Turner comes in. A 50 plus, 80 plus percentage guy who blocks 2.5 shots a game, gets a steal, and goes 15 and 7, and hits half a 3. He has got a serious top 15 upside. Maybe not this season, but he's a guy that has got all the strings to a fantasy bow that you'd want from a big man, and he is going to be a real handful. Whether he can stay out of foul trouble is one of the concerns, and whether he can continue to get 30 plus minutes, as it has barely happened this season. He's only averaging 27 a game. That needs to go up. The Pacers are an abysmal group of players at this point. Horribly run, horribly coached, but he's a guy that's going to have to get some extra minutes because he's doing the right thing by his fantasy owners, that's for sure. Speaking of horribly run, horribly coached teams, maybe not horribly run, the Denver Nuggets, the dud of the night, Jusuf Nurkic. 0 points for Nurk, 2 boards, 1 steal. That is it. He did not attempt a shot. Now, sorry, that's not true. He did attempt 2 shots. He did not hit a shot. My mistake. Now, this team... Should I get into it now? I probably should. This team got beaten again. They get beaten a lot, and most of it is down to poor coaching. They made a change to the starting lineup. Nikola Jokic went to the bench, as I mentioned at the opening quote of the show. And they started Ken Farid. You know my talk on Ken Farid. He's not a good player. He played 21 minutes and he was negative 14 in this game. Jusuf Nurkic played 17 minutes. He was a plus 3. There was only 2 plus players on the team. It was him and Juancho Hernan-Gomez at a plus 8. Why on earth Jusuf Nurkic plays 17 minutes is absolutely beyond me. Why Nikola Jokic plays 20 minutes when he was a minus 6, which was, I think, 3rd best on the team? Well, he was better than Farid, better than Gallinari, better than Moutier, better than Wilson Chandler, better than Jamal Murray. There was a few guys. Juancho was ahead of him, Jameer Nelson was ahead of him, Gaz Harris and Jusuf Nurkic. So 5th best on the team, minus 6. That's not too bad, but it's still better than Gallo, who was playing the 4, better than Kenneth Farid, who was playing the 4, better than Wilson Chandler, who was playing the 4. Nurkic, the trend for him is not positive at this point. He is down to rank just around 100 so far this season because his last couple of games have not been good. He's only down to 24 minutes on the season. Michael Malone is making some baffling coaching decisions. Now, Ken Farid played 10 minutes as the centre on this team. 10 minutes. That is precisely 10 minutes too many. In those 10 minutes that Farid played as the centre, he was a minus 8 in those 10 minutes. It's bad. He shouldn't be in that position where he is getting minutes as a centre. There is no reason at all, especially when your centres are actually playing decently when they play the position. There is no reason for Kenneth Farid to play centre ever. I understand the Nurkic-Jokic combination wasn't working, but you know what doesn't work? Any combination with Kenneth Faried. It doesn't work. Malone, these are bad decisions. Bad, horrible, disgusting coaching decisions. Kenneth Faried cannot guard anybody. He cannot guard Marcus Morris looked like Michael Jordan in this game. You put Faried at centre, he gets roasted. He's got no offensive game. There is literally zero reason to play Kenneth Faried unless you want to grab a rebound. And in the scheme of things, who gives a shit? What do you do with Nurkic? And we'll talk about Jokic later. He is the dud of the night here. I don't even know if I mentioned that. What do you do with him? I think you have to hold at this point. If there's someone else out there that's knocking the door down, maybe you consider it. But it's not looking positive. Now, 11 and 8 with a steal and 1.5 blocks, they're usable numbers in every league. But the trend is not great at this point, and the history of Malone and Nurkic, and the history of Malone and Jokic at times is not awesome as well. And I feel like Malone has absolutely zero idea how to run a rotation at this point. Zero. Just no. Look, it's not hard. Nurkic plays centre. Jokic plays centre. Nobody else plays centre at all, ever. At all, ever. You've got two starting quality centres. And to not play one of them for 10 minutes of the game is abominable. Apologies to Nuggets fans. Apologies to Mr. Malone's family if you're listening. Great motivator, great bloke, great coach. Great motivator, great bloke, great people person in terms of getting these players up. Terrible in-game decisions. Brutally bad. I just don't know which way it's going to work out because every decision they make is wrong. So I don't know what's going to happen with Nurkic. It's not looking positive, but I would still be holding at this point. It's just, it's been an absolute nightmare trying to deal with these Denver centers and trying to make sense of it, I guess. You just can't make sense of the decisions he makes because they don't make sense, and it's really as simple as that. These decisions just don't make any sense that Malone is throwing out there. And we have to, as fantasy owners, bear the brunt of it, I guess, and wait for some sense to get brought in, I guess, maybe. I don't know. Let's look at these games. There are 11 of them, so let's get stuck into them. The first one, the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. No Al Horford, so we got my boy, Kelly Olynyk, starting again. 28 minutes for Olynyk, 16, 6 and 4, 2 threes and a block. I'll probably make myself hoarse saying this. He is very good, and he needs to start with Al Horford, or he needs to play upwards of 25 minutes a night. None of this Tyler Zeller bullshit, none of this Amir Johnson bullshit. It needs to be Horford and it needs to be Olynyk, and I don't care if they start or not. They need to be the two big men who play close to 30 minutes each, whether Horford plays 32 and Olynyk plays 28, whatever. This is how it needs to work. Upside, I have a lot of it. This is a very, very common question that I'm getting at the moment. Sabonis or Olynyk? Has to be Olynyk. His upside is through the roof. He has got top 60, top 50 type upside. That is where he can be. Sabonis, I don't think he's in that level. Now, you feel a little bit more confident with Sabonis, who's going to get 26 a night most nights, but it's probably going to land you with 110 value. And is that all right? Yeah, it is. And if you're in, say, a 14-team league, maybe that's a little bit better. But in a 12-team league, I'd rather grab the guy that, if common sense prevails, and it doesn't always in the NBA, if common sense prevails, Olynyk plays the minutes and the numbers start to come. A big night there for him. The real test is going to come when Horford comes back, though. Avery Bradley, also known as Dennis Rodman, continues with his rebounding prowess. 13, 8 and 5, 2 steals and a block. Just a tremendous season from him. Really, really good stuff. Amir Johnson also got 31 in this game and was pretty good. 14 and 9 with 3 assists and a block, but he can't do that on a consistent basis. Well, Isaiah Thomas had 23 points with 5 dimes in his playing time. The Celtics ran a little bit of a weird rotation in this one. We saw Terry Rozier play 22 minutes in this game, and Jaylen Brown only get the 7. Obviously, it goes without saying, any ownership of Jaylen Brown has to be restricted to Dynasty or Deep Leagues. Marcus Smart, big minutes, not a great shooting night for Smart after a breakout yesterday. 34 minutes, 9, 2 and 2 with a steal on 4 of 11 shooting, but stick with him. He's a must-own guy in my opinion. And who else do we have? The James Young experience exploded. 16 minutes for Young, 12 and 3, 2 steals and 2 triples on 5 of 6 shooting. Comfortably the best night of his career. Let's put absolutely zero stock in that moving forward. onto the Pacers. There was no Paul George. Rod Stuckey is still out. CJ Miles started next to Monte Ellis, and Ellis took some of that form from the bench into the starting lineup, going 15, 4 and 4 with a nice 1-1. I think that you should feel much more confident about Ellis than you would have last week, especially with this move to the bench. CJ Miles, 32 for him, 8 points, 3 blocks, a steal and 2 triples. Not sure you can really rely on those blocks. And he went back to the 3 of 10 shooting, which so often sinks his value. So that could be something that does persist with him, and I've highlighted that millions and millions of times. That's probably an exaggeration though. Jeffy Teague, 23 and 4, horrendous shooting night from Teague, and Thad Young went 10 and 8 with 2 steals. Only the 24 minutes for Thad, just can't get enough playing time. It's a weird situation with him. He just isn't playing anywhere near enough. He still should be owned in most leagues, but it's a weird spot given what's going on with him at this moment. The Los Angeles Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans, an absolute pumping from the Lakers, and once again, Luke Walton is just giving the minutes all over the place. But you shouldn't have complained too much if you own these players in this game, because it was brilliant. D'Angelo Russell, 22, 2 and 6 with 4 triples on 9 of 16 shooting. That's great in 28 minutes. And I highlighted him on Friday's show, talking about him being a bit of a buy low guy. You're ranked in the 90s while only getting 27 minutes a night, and it could potentially go up. Well, this is a sign of that with the efficiency getting there. Jordy Clarkson, 23 and 3 with 4 triples in 25 minutes. Again, fueled by extraordinarily high shooting percentages, which obviously have to come down. And another 20-point performance from Lou Williams, 21, 3 and 4, 2 threes, 2 steals on 60% shooting. And his value, his shooting is going to drop, no doubt. Julius Randle, 8, 11 and 8, 2 steals, 2 blocks, doing it everywhere. Really, he's been the biggest beneficiary of Luke Walton, no doubt whatsoever. Actually, maybe there is doubt, because Uncle P, Nick Young, had 15 points on 5 triples in 20 minutes, only the 1 rebound and 2 assists, and I don't believe that Nick Young is a must-own 12-team league guy. He's more a 14-team league guy, and it's really going to be hard to squeeze him into a 10-teamer. But he has value. He has DFS value, he has streaming value, and somehow he's got actual NBA currency now. Lazar Nance, 6 and 8 with 2 steals, a nice performance from him, and I'm not sure he's a 12. He's another one. Do I have Sabonis, Nance, or Olynyk? Well, Olynyk is still over Nance as well, if he's in that conversation. Luol Deng has been an absolute disaster for this team. 18, and he's only got 3 years left and $70 million, so that's fine. 18 minutes, 0 points, 4 rebounds and 2 assists, and Brandon Ingram had 10 points and 4 dimes in his 22 minutes and continues to look more comfortable, but it's just not translating into any fantasy numbers. I was waiting for the barrage of tweets today when Anthony Davis went to the locker room holding his back. He returned and had 34 and 8 with 2 blocks in 35 minutes. So crisis averted, muting my phone averted. Big night from Tone Davis. We also had an Archie Goodwin sighting. After he's been with the team for a week, he played 10 minutes and had 7 points. He's not a must-own player, but he hit a 3. He went 1 of 1 from 3, so that means he's probably in line to miss his next 18 in a row. So don't get too excited there. Bud Hield, really good night from Hield. 18 points on exceptional shooting, 8 of 13. I'm not getting excited about him either. And we also had an Alexei Ajinça sighting. 24 minutes for Ajinça, 6 and 7 with 2 blocks. I'll continue to say this as well. He's a good player. He's better than guys like Omer Asik. He's better than Terrence Jones, who was a stinker. Jones back to the bench, 21 minutes, 6 and 4. Just not a good player, folks. It's as simple as this. He's just not a good player who can rack up stats. I don't think it gets much more complicated. Timmy Frazier, 4 points, had 10 assists in 29 minutes. I think I would just keep holding him. And do I own him? I think I own him in a league. I'm just holding him until Drew comes back, and then we'll go from there. And Dante Cunningham, there is 0 leagues I reckon you own him. Even if he was getting 30 a night, he does nothing. 3 and 4 with a triple in 18 minutes for Dante. The New York Knicks and Toronto Raptors. Mallow, as I mentioned yesterday, people who had him and he got ejected, never owning Melo again. Well, you just cost yourself 31, 6 and 4 in 38 minutes. He's been trending upwards significantly lately, and he's really kicking it off, and a big night there for him. 30 minutes, he was limited by foul trouble, but still had 21, 4 boards, 2 threes and 2 assists. Hard to complain too much there. Derrick Rose, 21, 4 and 4. Took 20 shots, that's too many, but he hit 10 of them. So it is hard to complain there. Well, Joakim Noah had 18 boards in his 33 minutes, going 2 of 9 from the field. Not a must-own guy. Courtney Lee, a decent 10-point performance. And Jeff Hornacek, no idea what he's doing with the centre position. It's Cock originally, then it's Billy Hernan-Gomez, and then Hernan-Gomez plays 4 minutes, so Cock can get 14 minutes. Very, very hard to put any sort of finger on what Hornacek's doing with his centre rotation, so it's going to be a little, let's grab Hernan-Gomez and see how that goes in your 14 or 16 teamers. Oh, now he's out of the rotation, let's go back to Kylo Quinn and see how he's working. There seems to be no consistency with anything that Hornacek does, and that is the hallmark of a bad coach. Not saying Hornacek is one, but it does trend down that territory. On to the Raptors. DeMar DeRozan, he sucked. 33 points at less than 50% efficiency. Yeah, sure, it was 48%, but come on, DeMar. We've got to keep it going. 33, 7 and 4 with 2 steals. The immaculate ride continues for DeRozan. And my boy Norm Powell. There was no DeMario Carroll. He played 29 minutes, 19 and 5, 3 triples, 2 assists and 1 steal. Do you go and add Norm in a 12-team league? I don't think that Casey will start Carroll over him. Originally it was just come out saying, okay, Powell starting over Carroll. What? Great, awesome, love it. And then it was, no, Carroll's actually resting. We've got a pre-planned rest schedule for him, but we're not telling you. No, we're not telling you when he's resting. He might rest some back-to-backs. We're not telling you. Good on you. He's better off not playing. What do you do with Powell? Well, if you're in a 14-teamer, maybe you grab him. Or not maybe, I would look to grab him because he's got top 100 upside. Will the Raptors make this move permanent? If I had to guess, I say there's a 5% chance of that happening. Yeah, how well Powell played and how poorly Carroll has played, and the fact that this knee injury happened in November last year, and it's still bothering him. He's still having back-to-backs, rest days. He played through the playoffs, came back and played. These are not good signs for him. And this is not something where he went out there and something happened. That, oh, look at that, sprained MCL, torn ACL. This is just degenerative knee issues. And he was no good before the injury anyway. Carroll can be dropped. I think there's no point holding on to him in 12-team leagues. And Powell is an interesting guy. 16, 6 and 6 for Kyle Lowry in 41 minutes. Cool, they're giving him a break at age 31. He's going well there. Pascal Siakam, 20 minutes, 9 and 2. Yeah, not a bad game, but he's not ownable in most situations. And Valanciunas, as I touched on earlier, 13 and 8 with a steal and a block. Good to have him back, but obviously you want those minutes back around that 30 mark. The Philadelphia 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks. The Sixers were giving them a little bit of trouble early on, but the Hawks got away from them. Big Bob Cove night, 26 minutes for Bob Cove, 11 and 3, but 3 triples, 4 steals and 1 block. Really giving us an example of why you don't panic at the start of the season. Yes, he wasn't hitting his threes, but the minutes were there, the shots were there, the defensive numbers were there, and now it is starting to come together. We also had a bit of a Source Castillo night. 24 minutes for Stauskas, 12 and 4 with 3 steals and 2 triples, while Sergio Rodriguez went 13, 3 and 4 with 3 threes. Interesting to see what the Sixers do when Jared Bayless comes back, but I think we're going to be waiting a while for Bayless, to be honest. I think this could be a real long-term situation, and I don't think that he gets the starting job back. Maybe when Ben Simmons is around, they move to Bayless, but Rodriguez has been handling things pretty well. A decent night for him. Dario Saric went 12 and 7 with 2 triples. A decent night for him, and Jalil Okafor 18 and 6 in his 24 minutes. Not much else to talk about there. Ersan had a triple one. 9 and 5 in his 24 minutes. On to the Hawks. Big night from Kent Bazemore. 17 and 5, 3 steals and 2 blocks. He's going to be up and down. You probably should own him, but you know my take there. And a big one from Kyle Korver as well. 14 points, 3 triples, 2 steals and 2 blocks. Let's file that under. Probably won't happen again. And I don't really see him being a staple for standard leagues. Dennis Schroeder, 16, 5 and 8, took advantage of a substandard opposition, and Dwight had 10 and 11. Not the best night from Paul Millsap, 6, 4 and 3, while Timmy Hardaway had 20 points, including 5 triples in 18 minutes. The Washington Wizards and the Chicago Bulls. There was no John Wall, there was no Brad Beal, so we were treated to a starting backcourt of Sheldon McClellan and Tomas Satoransky. Satoransky, this kid's good, 12, 4 and 9, a steal and a 3. Interesting to see what they do with him and how they use him moving forward. You know that I think he's a backup 1, 2 and 3 in this league, and there's a significant chance that he is a better player than Bradley Beal at some point in the next couple of years. I'm not a massive Beal fan. Satoransky's just that deeper league guy at this point. Sheldon McClellan, his first NBA start, fine. 15 points on 5 of 9 shooting with 2 assists, 2 rebounds and 1 assist. One thing's for sure, he's better than Marcus Thornton, who played 23 minutes and went 9 and 4. If Beal continues to remain out, you've got some short-term value with McClellan, but after that, there's a chance he goes out of the rotation. But maybe Brooks sees him and goes, oh, you know what, maybe we use him. But then also Scotty Brooks could go out there and sign Derek Fisher and play him some minutes. So what Brooks does and what is the best thing for the team often don't intersect. Trey Burke, 6 points with 3 assists in 17 minutes. He continues to not be good. And Otto Porter, this is the regression we were talking about. He was never going to shoot at 60% for the season, and he shot at 25 in this one. 8 and 4 with 2 blocks, and that was why his value was significantly inflated after that hot start to the season. Also, Markieff Morris, brilliant. 44 minutes for him, 24 and 15, 3 blocks. I'm glad I invested in him in tons of leagues. He's going to get lots of opportunities here with his team, and a big one for Marcin Gortat, 18 and 14 with a block. His sell high window is still there, but when Mahinmi comes back, when Mahimi's ready to go, that is when you strike, because a lot of people still believe in Gortat, and he's still good, but he's not going to play 35, 36 minutes a night. I would be stunned if he continued to play at this level, not at this level in terms of minutes, when Mahinmi is back. On to the Bulls. Rob Lopez, 38 minutes. He goes from 17 to 38. And he seems locked into this big role now. 10 and 13 for Lopez, 2 blocks, a disheartening 5 of 16 from the field, but he can be looked at in 12-team leagues again. And my boy Nick Mirotic, this is what he can do. And shockingly, he hit his shot, so he played minutes. Hoiberg, I applaud your decision on Rajon Rondo, but use Mirotic better. 17 and 11 with 3 triples, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. That is a fantastic line, and that is why I have held on to him, and I recommend holding on to him, because he can do this stuff. He is significantly better than guys like Bob Portis, than like Doug McDermott, who suffered a concussion in this one and for the second time this season. Isaiah Cannon played 27 minutes, 8 points and 2 rebounds. Even if he does start over Rondo or finishes over Rondo, or they play the same amount of minutes, Cannon's not going to have value in 12-team leagues. Taj Gibson a solid 13 and 5, and Dwayne Wade just the 14 points, but chipped in with a steal on the blocks. 17 shots, hitting 5 of them. It's not a good night from Wade, but the other numbers are still there, obviously. The San Antonio Spurs and the Houston Rockets, big game from Aldridge, 16 and 10 with 3 blocks, and Kawhi had 20 points with 3 steals. A little bit empty in the other categories from Kawhi, but some decent numbers there. And Pau Gasol, this is key to me, a back-to-back and 30-plus minutes in both of them. 15, 7 and 6 for Pau with 2 blocks. Maybe it just was growing pains in this system. Clearly, you keep holding him now that everything seems to be going in a much better direction. And another example of why we don't panic too much to begin the season. Tone Parker, 16 points with 3 assists in 27 minutes. Bit fluky, don't get excited. And Danny Green, just the 5, but he hit a 3, he got 2 blocks, and that is exactly where his value is. It is not in scoring, it is in getting blocks, it's in getting steals, and it's in getting 3s. So it's still not a great night, but when you get 2 blocks out of a shooting guard, and that's what you drafted him for, that's exactly why it's value. Pat Mills, 8, 4 and 4 in his 21 minutes. Onto the Rockets, Eric Gordon was on fire, 27 and 5 with 7 triples, a steal and a block. Really nice numbers from him in that bench role as they continue to go with that maddening decision of starting Corey Brewer. And it's not maddening because I've got an issue with Eric Gordon. As I mentioned the other day, putting him in there for defense and then not playing him against the starters the whole time has zero impact whatsoever. Makes no sense. You obviously don't need to. And this is another example why when you see the news come across someone starting and someone goes on the bench, that it doesn't mean shit in most situations, because Brewer starting, Eric Gordon goes to the bench and Gordon plays 32 and has 7 triples and Brewer plays 16 minutes. It doesn't have really any impact whatsoever. Jim Harden didn't get a monstrous line of the night, just chucked out a casual triple-double, 25, 11 and 13 with 2 triples. Just been amazing so far. And Trev Ariza, 15 and 4, 4 triples, 3 steals. That's where his value is. 3s and steals, and he's getting them in pretty big bunches. Not sure what Clint Capella has to do to get a bigger role than this, to be honest. 25 minutes, a double-double, a block, 12 points, 10 boards, a block, hit both his free throws. Anyone with 2 eyes can see that he is a much better option than NIGHI out there, and don't even get me started on Montrezl Harrell, who didn't play in this game. But Capella, if you're punting free throws, well, it didn't have to be in this one, but if you're punting free throws, he's a must-own player. He has to be owned. So you need to find a way to get him. If you're not punting free throws and you own him, well then congratulations, you're now punting free throws. And that might be fine. I think that his arrow is still significantly pointing upwards. Not much else to talk about. Unless you want to talk about Ryan Anderson going 1 of 13 and having 6 points and 8 rebounds. I'm glad I don't own him anywhere. The Los Angeles Clippers and the all-conquering Los Angeles Clippers versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. Chris Paul, 19, 4 and 8, 2 steals. Get shit done. DeAndre Jordan, this is the big game we've been waiting for. 18 and 16, 2 steals and 2 blocks. The 10 of 16 from the line is actually better than what you would anticipate, but it's still a huge, and that's the thing. He went 63% from the line, and people are like, oh, that's improvement. It is an impossible hole to recover from. Impossible. And that's where having an understanding of Z scores and volume affecting percentages is important. Because you might go, well, he was a 40% shooter last season. So 63, I can work around that. You can't. Incorrect. You cannot work around it. If we look at what the Z score is, you say, for example, Chris Paul went 8 of 8 from the line. He had a Z score of 4.62. DeAndre Jordan was -6, going 62%. So you're still a significant negative in that category, even if you combine Paul and Jordan together, and Jordan had a big improvement. You can't overcome it. JJ, 18 points, 2 triples, 3 assists. He's looking a little bit better in the last couple of games. And Blakey Griffin, 20, 11 and 4. But what about Luke Mahmoud? 15 points on 6 of 8 shooting. The amazing stat there is he took 8 shots. 2 triples, 1 steal and a block. The minutes are there. He's basically 24 to 25 a night. He had 34 in this one with no Wes Johnson. That will come down when Johnson is back. But he's putting up some decent-ish numbers, and your sort of 16 to 18 team league guys are going to want to start to pay a little bit of attention here. Austin Rivers was putrid, Ray Felton was average, and Jamal Crawford had 10 points and 4 assists, but all of those guys can be left alone for the deeper sort of formats. On the Minnesota Timberwolves, a big Karl Anthony Towns night, 24 and 10, 2 steals and 2 blocks. Zachary Levine went 15, 3 and 4 with a couple of steals, and Wiggo had 22, 4 and 3. Not the best shooting night from Wiggo, only 8 of 24, but still getting the 20 points is a nice little number. But the big news is we had him back. Yes. Ravishing Rick Rubio was back for the Timberwolves. He only played the 24 minutes, only had 7 points, but 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal and 1 3. He's back starting, he's back in business. Chris Dunn can clearly be dropped out of 12-team formats. I don't really understand why they limited Tyus Jones down to 8 minutes, who again outplayed Chris Dunn. I understand you want to develop Dunn, but I think Jones is more a perfect foil for Rubio than what Dunn is, where he's a really faded facsimile of what Rubio gives you, and Jones is just a different sort of guy who can come and do some different things in that second unit. Nemanja Bjelica, a pretty good night, 8 points with 4 assists in his 18 minutes, while Gorgie Jang really struggled, just didn't get involved at all, 6 and 5 in his 30 minutes. The Utah Jazz and the Miami Heat, Gordon Hayward MVP, 25 and 9 for Hayward, 35 minutes, 4 assists, 10 of 20 from the field. He has not been what you've expected. He has been everything that you have expected, plus about an extra 100%. The numbers he's putting up, he is just, and this team looks almost unbeatable at the moment with him in the squad. Rudy Gobert's kicking it up a notch, 12 and 12 with 2 steals and a block. Rod Hood bounced back, had 17, 4 and 2. Big nights from them. Dante Exum got another start, 10 and 3 and 29, while Shelvin Mack had 12, 2 and 2 with George Hill still out. And the only bad news is Derek Favors had knee soreness, and he lasted just 6 minutes, 6 points. Not cutting him or anything like that. Let's just see where this goes. Nobody really stepped up. Joey Johnson played 28 minutes and had 10 and 6, and Trey Lyles had 4 and 5. Boris Diaz likely to be back next week. That's going to throw another body in there. There's no ad of Lyles. There's no ad of Johnson at this point, unless we're talking, say, 14-team leagues. In 12-team leagues, I don't think anything's happening, and we don't know how long Favors is going to be out at this point. On to the Miami Heat. We had no Goran Dragic in the lineup, so the Miami Heat, they started They also started Justice Winslow. They started Joshy Richardson and Dion Waiters in the guard spot. Waiters continues to suck. He had 4 points in 19 minutes, and they ran Joshy Richardson 33 minutes, 12, 3 and 4, 2 steals and a block. This is why I'm big on Richardson. This is why I think he can be a very good player, and he probably should be owned in most leagues. He handled the ball. He got defensive stuff. He took 16 shots, which was the most on the team. He's very, very good. Tyler Johnson, 29 minutes, 5, 3, and 4. Not the best performance from Johnson, but it appears he's obviously just locked into that backup role. I think that when Dragic is back, they have to go with Joshie Richardson next to him. They can't persist with this Dion Waiters crap. It has to be Richardson. He has to be 30 plus. He's key to what they want to do. A big night from Rod Magruder. Big night for the Rods today. 22 minutes for him. 14 points, 3 triples. He will likely be eliminated from the rotation when Dragic is back. We also saw Luke Babbitt start and play 5 minutes. Why he continues to play is baffling. Jim Johnson had 15, 4, and 4 in his 30 minutes. A very high percentage night from him, but I'm not really sure that's worth an own. 11, 6, and 2 for Justice, and 15 and 14 for Hassan Whiteside with 2 blocks there. Just a pretty stock standard performance. No Derek Williams, but actually completely incorrect. Derek Williams had 20 minutes, 11 and 4 in the rotation with a block. Can he stay there? Maybe. There's clearly a spot here at power forward for one of these guys, and is it him or is it Josh McRoberts who made an appearance as well? Let's see how it goes, but I don't think any of them are going to be 12-team league guys. You're probably looking 16-teamers. I'd grab Derek Williams in a 16-teamer just to see how it pans out. Memphis and Milwaukee. Marc Gasol 18, 5, and 6. Big night from him. Mike Conley 15, 5, and 3. On some pretty poor shooting, and Chandler Parsons owners will be happy with that, and he's still undervalued. I'm telling you now, he's still undervalued by people. Only 23 for Parsons, 12, 4, and 1 with a steal, a block, and 2 triples. And when I say these things, I'm not calling out people, but someone did ask me today, who do you want, Chandler Parsons or Thad Young? Or would you trade away Parsons to get Thad Young? And I went, not a chance would I do that. And then that person, and I'm sure you're listening, you know who you are, you said, you seem really adamant about that. Are you sure there's that much of a difference? And I bring this up to say, yes, there's a massive difference. There is a very, very big difference. And I'm not hanging shit on you, but it's about getting the perception of players amongst the public. If someone else owns Chandler Parsons and they think they're worth Thad Young, then you attack the person who owns Chandler Parsons and you get him onto your team for not much. It is a lean start, much like it was a lean start for Joshie Richardson, much like it was a lean start for Gaz Harris. These guys coming back from injury, lower body injuries in particular, it tends to be a slow start. Parsons is a top 50 player, and it might not happen until December, but his owner might be devaluing him. You should be making plays at him before he starts playing 34 minutes and going 16, 6, and 6, which is literally what he can do. Really keep an eye on it. Jim Ennis got to start with Tone Allen out again, 9, 2, and 2 in 26 minutes. I think you can probably move on from Ennis in 12-team formats. Wade Baldwin only played the 12 here, while Andrew Harrison played 17 minutes. Neither guy really looked good. While Vince Carter, of course, why wouldn't you play Vince Carter 34 minutes? 17 points for Carter, 2 assists and a steal. I'm only partially joking there because Carter actually played well and he's done fantastic stuff so far this season. Zebo had 12 and 7 in his 23 minutes, got the 3 steals as well, just continues to put up numbers that honestly are sometimes quite confusing. He's fine in a 12, but by no means, if he's sitting on a waiver wire, by no means am I dropping a guy that I'm hoping is going to have some upside to go and get Randolph. On to the Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo is pretty stiff, not to get the monstrous line of the night. 27, 6, and 5, but 4 steals and 4 blocks, and he went 9 of 13 from the field. That is a huge performance. Really, really big stuff. Jabari, not as efficient. He went 5 of 16 for 16, 4, and 2. And Nick Beasley had 19 points in 19 minutes. Not sure that's all that sustainable. What about the mess at centre? Well, Jason Kidd, congratulations. We don't know what you're doing, and neither do you. John Henson started, 18 minutes, 8 and 7 with a block. Decent performance. Greggy Munro, 21 minutes, 7 and 7. Decent. Do you own Henson? Deep leagues. Do you drop Munro? Not just yet. 8-team leagues, sure. 10-team leagues, he's on the border. But it's never going to be a stable situation here with his centre rotation. Miles Plumlee, 9 minutes, which is basically what he was doing as a starter anyway, and you shouldn't have had any real use for him. Mirza Teletovic plays 5 off the bench. Dellavedova plays 26 minutes, only 4, 2, and 2. A really disheartening performance, but I do still think he should be owned. But the guy that I'm waiting for, and you know who it is, it's Malcolm Brogdon. He played 22 minutes, 12 points, 3 assists and 2 triples. At some point, Jason Kidd is going to realise that Malcolm Brogdon plays ahead of Tony Snell. He's already realised he's ahead of Rashad Vaughn. He's playing backup point guard to Dellavedova, and there is a semi-realistic chance that by the end of the season, despite what the Bucks signed Dellavedova to, that Brogdon is a better player than him. There's a chance of that. Brogdon does have a very, very nice fantasy game, and he is the guy that post All-Star, when you look at some guys who come from nowhere, he's a real chance to be a top 100 guy. Now, do you stash a guy and sit him on your bench for 3 months? In a daily changes league, no, because it's going to be zero use when it comes to playoffs because you're not going to be there. In a roto league, maybe, depends on who you're dropping, but if we're looking for a long shot guy to have a big second half, Brogdon's the one, because you look at who's ahead. Dellavedova, fine. Not great, fine. Tony Snell, what's the opposite of great? Rashad Vaughn, what's worse than that? They're the guys who are competing for minutes. Brogdon's a rookie. He's had no issues fitting into the NBA. He hit threes, he gets assists, he plays defense, he scores, he organizes stuff. He's exactly what they need. He is Chris Middleton. And I don't know how long it's going to take Jason Kidd to realize this, but he is Chris Middleton. He needs to play. Jason, if you're listening, that's some free advice. The Brooklyn Nets and the Phoenix Suns, I don't really understand what to say about the Brooklyn Nets. They are running out a group of guys that Joe Harris is playing a key role for this team. And they just dropped 122 on the Phoenix Suns. And yes, the Phoenix Suns have got a worse defense than Melbourne United if they were playing in the NBA. But still, Joe Harris is leading the way, and the Nets are winning on the road and dropping 122. Trevor Booker, must-own player, 19-8-4. Brookie Lopez, only 11-5, but I don't know, he'd just supplement that with 1 steal and 5 blocks. The early season panic? Yeah, look, there's still some frustration, but shit, when a guy gets 11-5 with 5 blocks, you can stick your complaining fair up your ass, because that's a fairly good line. It's not a fairly good line, it's a bloody good line. And he only went 3 of 11 from the field. If he gets his normal 50-60% conversion, you're talking 17-5 with a steal and 5 blocks, and you go, you know what? I am absolutely wrapped with that. Joe Harris hit 5 triples for 19 points. I think he's done this twice so far this season, so let's leave him for the deeper formats. After a stinker the other day, Shawnee Kilpatrick went 19-9-4. And Bojan Bogdanovic, I don't think he's a 12-teamer. 7-5 for him in 31 minutes. But I saved the best for last. Rondé, MFHJ, 30 minutes for Hollis Jefferson. 20 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. Basically his LeBron out there now these days. 10 of 11 from the line. Yes, he was putrid to start the season. Yes, I was copping abuse for why did you have him ranked so high? And I'll say it a million times that the projections are not rankings on Basketball Monster. It was like he forgot how to play for the first week of the season. But watch a Nets game now and see if he knows how to play. This is about a week's worth of games in a row, and he's not going to score 20. If you get 20 points out of Rondé Hollis Jefferson, you must be absolutely wrapped, because it's just not going to happen. But he's a great rebounder. He's showing extra playmaking this year. The defense is there. 20, 13-4 with a steal and a block. It's very hard to complain about that. He should be owned in leagues everywhere. 12s, grab him. This is what he's going to. No, it's not what he's going to do. This is the role he's going to have. This is the opportunity he is going to have. Don't be swayed by the first week of the season and go, well, you know what, he was shit then. He had 2 points and 3 boards in 4 games. He was shit. Yeah, he was. I know that. But that's the outlier, not these other performances. He should be owned. Shout out to Yogi Ferrell for playing 13 minutes. On to the Phoenix Suns. Or at least they're probably going to get a top 5 pick. TJ Warren, 34 minutes, 18, 3-2, 3 steals and a block. It's a very common question. Sell high on TJ Warren. How much is he dropping off? He's not. This is it. This is TJ Warren. This is what he is. He's not dropping off. Not a sell high. Marquise Chris had his best game since being inserted as a starter. Still didn't crack 20 minutes. 18 minutes, 16-5 with a steal and 2 triples. So it's a big night there. And no Tyson Chandler again. So we've got 29 minutes of Alex Len. 10-11 with 2 blocks. This guy is actually, he's good. I know some people don't agree with me, but he is good. Jared Dudley playing way more minutes off the bench than he was as a starter. And he's doing it in a fairly good way. 17 and 6 with 4 triples for Dudley, but just leave him for a 16-team format, I think. And Devin Booker's in a bit of a slump again. 11, 6 and 3, and 5 of 18 shooting. He had that little stretch after I said that he wasn't a good shooter and began to hit shots, bouncing off the top of the backboard. And now he's fallen away a little bit again. But still, you own him. Brandon Knight, on the other hand, I would be okay with moving on from him. It is clear they won't be playing him 30 minutes a night. They might not even play him 25 minutes a night. 6 and 9 with 4 assists for Knight in 22 minutes. 2 of 13. Horrible shooting. Depending on who you're grabbing, in say a 10-team league, I think there's every case you can make for Brandon Knight being gone. In a 12-teamer, it depends on who you're adding. But has he had a good game this year? I don't know that he's had one single good game. Eric Bledsoe, the triple eights, 8 points, 8 boards, 8 rebounds, 3 steals, 8 field goal attempts as well. Hit one of them. You turn that around into 4 out of 8 and you're looking at a much better line, but very hard to complain about 8 boards, 8 assists and 3 steals when the shot doesn't fall. The Detroit Pistons and the Denver Nuggets, there's one thing to get the Pistons a road win, it's playing against the Nuggets. Toby Harris, 19 and 4 with 2 steals and a block. Marcus Morris, 17 points, 3 assists, 2 steals, just took Kenneth Reed to the woodshed. Johnny Lua, he played his 26. He got a 14 and 10 double-double, which is very, very high. But when you're playing against this Denver crap, anything can happen. Drummond, 14 and 12 in 27 minutes. He was limited by fouls. Ish had 10 and 8 in his 29. You know the story there. Brutalises your percentages. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope dropped 14 with 2 steals. A decent night there, but nothing too exciting. On to the Nuggets. Emmanuel Mudiay, 19 and 5. 4 triples, 2 steals, 2 blocks. You're very happy with that sort of performance from Mudiay, but you still query why you're playing just 27 minutes. Danilo Gallinari, 18 and 4 with 2 triples, and Gaz Harris, he's starting to show you why he has to be owned. 13, 4 and 4 in 28 minutes, has to be owned. Jameer had 11 points. Ken Fareed, who I unapologetically eviscerated earlier on, 8 and 8 in 21 minutes with a couple of blocks, should never play centre again in his life. And Nick Jokic, 20 minutes, 6 and 3 with a steal. If you're in a 10-team league, I can totally understand dropping Jokic. If you're in a 12-team league, I can understand the urge to drop. I'm not, because what the Nuggets are doing is not working. If he was being limited and he was being put into a different role, in a bench role, and the Nuggets were flying, the lineups were working, things were going, I'd say, you know what, this doesn't look good for Jokic. Let's move on. But the solace that I have is that I look at it and go, he's not playing enough minutes and the team is stinking. They are terrible. Nothing good is coming from it. So at some point, Malone is going to have to say, let's try something. Let's try the common sense thing and play our best players in their positions for a start, and let's not play Kenneth Reed at centre. But at some point, he's going to say, well, this is not working. This array of lineups is not working. Let's go to something. And I feel confident that when he goes to the correct lineup, when he runs the correct rotations, that Jokic will play well. And again, it's not that he's playing terribly. His percentages have been low. He's been a little bit down on the rebounding. But it's the minutes haven't been there. And that's coaching. It's putting him in the incorrect position to succeed and then not putting him in any position at all for long enough. The team is not succeeding. So it's not a situation, again, as I said, he's not being benched and the team's flying. You go, shit, how does he get back into this? How does he get it going? Because they were putrid. Again, they lost a very winnable game at home. And things don't look good. The criticisms are growing louder of Malone. He's going to turn it around. If Jokic gets dropped in one of my leagues, I'm adding him. I own him in leagues and I'm not dropping him. It's the start of November. Man, we've got 5 months to go. If I have to lose 2 weeks while the Nuggets figure shit out and go, you know what, maybe we should play a top 10 all-time rookie, then I'll wait those 2 weeks. I don't think that there's anyone out there that's an absolute game-changer free agent at the moment that I need to grab, but I am holding personally. But I can totally understand reasons why you would drop him in a 10-team league, and I wouldn't say that you're an idiot for doing it. If you're in my league and you do it, I'll probably grab him. But I can totally understand why you would do it. People take things very personally and they go, I'm so frustrated. Dude, I wasted a 3rd round pick on this guy, you shit. Get rid of him. Can't have him on my team. And that's how a lot of people react, and that's human nature. I'm probably a little bit more robotic and very unhuman, as many people have told me before. So I will look at it and go, no, I'll stick it out a little bit, and I'll see how it goes, because I try to look at it in a little bit more logical way. But it's been so annoying, man. It has been frustrating. But this was the problem, and this is what I stressed a million times. And if you guys didn't listen to this podcast during preseason because you are new listeners, well, next season listen during the preseason as well. I do encourage you. We have lots of good information. But I reckon I said at every single episode we talked about the Nuggets and Jokic, there is a huge, huge risk here. And there's a risk. Are you willing to take that in the second round? No, you shouldn't. Are you willing to take it in the early parts or mid parts of the third round? No, you shouldn't take that risk. The upside is there, but we don't know what Malone's going to do. And at the moment, if we're going to predict what Malone's going to do, let's look at what the right decision is, and he's probably going to go whatever 180 degrees away from that one is. And I'm talking about this a lot, but it's definitely the overwhelming theme, I guess, in fantasy at the moment, what the hell to do with Nikola Jokic. So I wanted to get a few thoughts out there. Wilson Chandler was back. He played 30 minutes, had 6 and 10. But if you aren't on board Juancho Hernan-Gomez, you need to be. 20 minutes, 7 and 4 with 2 assists. His role is increasing. His play is good. Shit, he's better than Kenneth Reed already. He needs to be playing. Darrell Arthur's probably not going to get back into the rotation if there was a coach who made good lineup decisions in charge. Juancho's jumping up. He's playing the 3. He can play the 4. Keep an eye on Juancho. He's more of a 20-team league guy at the moment. He's definitely got sensational dynasty value, even top 10 out of the rookie class, I would say, in a dynasty. And he's really starting to look the goods. Get on board Juancho. That's it for the games. We are done discussing all 11 of those games on Saturday. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back to look at Sunday's action from a DFS point of view. Alright guys, let's look at DFS. Let's talk about Saturday's perfect lineup. We'll start with D'Angelo Russell on FanDuel. D'Angelo Russell 32.4 and Dennis Schroeder at 33. Shooting guards DeMar DeRozan 49.4 and Giannis Antetokounmpo at 52.7. With the small forwards, Jim Butler 64.1, RMF HJ at 42.6, Markieff at 48, Nikola Mirotic at 39.7, and DeAndre Jordan at 45.7 for a total of 407.6. Over on DraftKings, Antetokounmpo at 55.5, DeRozan 51.25, Jim Butler at 66, Mirotic at 43.25, DeAndre Jordan at 48.5, Eric Gordon at 42.75, Markieff at 51.75, and rounded out with Rondé Hollis Jefferson at 46.2, and for some reason on my screen it says Rondé Holiday Jefferson. No idea what I was talking about when I wrote that. Let's look at the games for Sunday. There are 5 of them. We've got an early one, which is the Charlotte Hornets and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs, it's not that early. It's a 3:30 Eastern time tip. The Cleveland Cavaliers are favoured by 8, and the total is 209. But the Hornets are good. Don't be surprised if they don't take it up to the Cavs in some degree. Kyrie is at 7,500. It's a pretty good matchup for him. He's in decent form, and I think that you can expect 75. If you can expect 75, you'll be going well. I think you can expect 35 points out of Kyrie on most nights. This is a pretty decent spot for him. On the flip side, Kemba Walker is at 8,300, so the salary's gone up. It's a great matchup for him, but his numbers have been through the roof. He's averaging almost 50 over the last 3 games. He's averaging 43 over the last 5, but at 8,300, he needs to hit that 43 mark for it to be value. I'd probably take Kyrie and save the $800, but I can really see a situation where given the way that he's playing, Kemba's worth looking at. Now, he's not quite as good on the road that he is at home, so that may be another reason just to be a little bit hesitant about using Kemba. Ramon Sessions, no. Shooting guards, J.R. Smith at 4,300. Actually, he's been really consistent lately, giving you these 23 points a night. And normally Smith's a guy that I will be completely adverse to in cash, but in tournaments I will use him. But at the moment, with the role he is playing, the way that he's playing, in cash it's not a terrible guy to look at. Nick Batum at 6,300 really had a monster in the last game, but I'm not as keen on using him in this one here. And Iman Shumpert at 39, he's playing a solid role for the Cavs, but it doesn't really translate into DFS points. At small forward, LeBron's at 9,900. Just lock it in. You're going to get 49 out of LeBron basically every night, and that's valuable, especially if Michael Kidd-Gilchrist doesn't play. Now, I don't think we'd use Kidd-Gilchrist at 5,400, but if he's out, then you're going to have LeBron and Treveon Graham, and it's going to be a bloodbath. So, yeah, look, I like LeBron locking it in a cash sort of situation. Mick Dunleavy, Marco Bellinelli, Dick Jefferson, not much interest there. Kevin Love at 7,500, I think he's valuable. Just like Kyrie, you're going to get those mid-30s in points for that 7,500 price tag, and that should be a decent guy to look at. Channing Frye, the other power forward on the team, no. Marvin Williams at 5,100, had some decent games recently, but not sure I want to use him against a Cavs team who does really restrict power forwards and has done so historically as well. Frank the Tank at 4,000, Frank Kaminsky, nah, I don't think so here either. At centre, Tristan Thompson's really been stinking it up. He's at 4,500. The matchup's positive. I wouldn't hate using him if you're looking for a cheap centre. Code Zell's been alright. He's at 4,800. The matchup's not great, and if Roy Hibbert gets some of his minutes bumped up, maybe that's a concern. But I still think you need to run Zeller out there if you're Charlotte, because Hibbert's just not quite the same player. But Zeller's actual play doesn't normally translate that well into DFS statistics. Just before I get onto the next game, a few people contacted me today and yesterday to tell me they'd had some pretty good DFS results. So some of them I won't name him, you don't want to be named, but some of them are turning in some monster numbers. And they're giving credit to this podcast, which I don't think is necessarily the way it goes, because you put in the hard work and you put out the lineups, but it's nice to be acknowledged. And it's just great that people who listen to this podcast can put out some big lineups and win some big money. Like legit, someone won $30,000 today with one of their lineups. Another person contacted me, said they've been able to quit their full-time job and do DFS full-time, and they say, you know, thanks that you're providing me with this insight, and now you're making, you know, six figures with this stuff. And it's amazing. And I love hearing these success stories. So thank you for everyone who's sharing them with me. People send me through screenshots. Look what I did today, and I go, shit, that's ridiculous. Like, these numbers are crazy. We don't have access to these contests here in Australia. Like, legit, the biggest contest we have, first prize is $1,300. I still want to take one of them out. I think I've come second 3 times in it, which is nice, but it's not the same as winning $30,000. I know that much. But congratulations to the people listening to this podcast who have had success playing DFS and who have been able to improve their own lives and their families' lives through being successful at it. So I had a number of people message me today, way more than I would have expected, and the numbers that people were looking at were just ridiculous. So shout out to you, you know who you are, and congratulations. And I always want to hear success stories, so thank you for sharing them with me. The next game, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Wolves are favoured by 5. The total is 215 points here. Very hard to bet against the Lakers, though. I know they're travelling, but they just seem to be doing everything that they need to do. Rick Rubio is at 6,100. The projections are very favourable for him, but you don't expect him to be on a minutes limit. He only played low 20s in yesterday's or today's game, whatever, Saturday's game, whatever day you listen to this. So there's a slight risk there with Rubio, but I don't hate it in a tournament because D'Angelo Russell, not the greatest defender that's out there, and he could have a night where he does a little bit more than he did in that first game back, where he still had 22 points in 24 minutes. So if he gets 30 minutes, there's a real chance he gets 30 points. So Rubio's worth considering. As for Russell, he's at 5,800, had a nice 32-pointer today, but the minutes just don't seem to be getting to 30. At 5,800, can he give you 27 points? I don't think you should be too scared off about that happening. The Rubio defense is a little bit of a concern for Russell, and I reckon there could be some better options out there. Just in general for this slate, there's shit all value in a lot of spots. with point guards, there's very little cheap options out there. It's not looking like a great slate, to be honest, but there's always something to be found. Chris Dunn, Tyus Jones, they're out of the calculations. At shooting guard, Zachary LaVine, 6,200. The Lakers have been putrid against shooting guards in terms of giving up points. LaVine, getting 30 points out of him at the moment feels almost like that it's just going to consistently happen. You hope that his shot falls. I don't think that the Nick Young, Lou Williams, Jordan Clarkson trio defensively is going to really put him off his game too much. So he's a guy to look at. As for Lou Williams at 5,000, it's very hard to even avoid him at this point. He's putting up numbers at a crazy rate, averaging 30 points over his last 5, and the salary's not adjusting. Levine's not a shutdown guy. Tom Thibodeau's defense is definitely not in full gear yet. So Louis Williams is someone to use. Jordy Clarkson's at 5,000 as well. I'd definitely be preferring Williams. He outscores in basically every game, and it feels like his minutes are more consistent as well. Uncle P at 4,400. That salary is just a little bit high given his current output. Wigo's at 6,500. It just feels a little high, but the matchup's so good here against the Lakers. Luol Deng's doing nothing. Brandon Ingram's got some defensive presence, but small forwards are having their way with the Lakers. 6,500 though, it is tough for me to use Wigo, but it's not a complete write-off. So I think there is something to be seen there. Obviously, we're not touching Deng and Brandon Ingram and Shabazz Muhammad. At power forward, Gorgie Jeng at 6,000. Looking for a bounce back. He's had a couple of quiet ones in a row. Nice matchup. Tournaments only, though. As for Larry Nance at 3,800, I think he's a decent tournament play. He had 24 in 22 minutes today, but it's not replicable in every game. Julius Randle, a monster 40-pointer. 6,300 for Randle. He's had a fairly successful run against Minnesota. I think that he is in play at that price tag. At centre, Karl Anthony Towns, 8,600, probably one of the best plays in terms of big price centres on the board. Tim Mozgov, Cole Aldrich, Tariq Black. I don't think we really have any situation where we'd be considering using those guys, unfortunately. The next game is the Orlando Magic and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The return of Serge Ibaka. The Thunder are favoured by 9. The total here is 203 points. Let's look at the point guards. Lord Alfred Payton. Actually, let's just stop for a sec. The Magic are putrid. They scored 74 points yesterday. This could be a destruction. They need to do a lot more. Payton at 5,400 has had a drop of $300 on his salary. Yeah, I find it hard to use him in this situation. As for Russ, 11,600. He has done fantastically well against Orlando historically. Had a nice 57-pointer in the last game. My only concern is, and Billy Donovan's shown no hesitation to do that, when the game's up, Russ sits. So it is hard to spend 11,600 on Westbrook unless you're in a tournament and unless you think Orlando can keep it close, because at this point you would have no reason to believe that Orlando can keep it close, and then Russ might play 28 minutes, and that's really going to stuff you over at 11,600. DJ Augustine, Samaje Kristen. Kristen in a tournament you might consider. Minimum salary, maybe he gets 20 if Russ sits, but it's a pretty long bow to draw. At shooting guard, Vic Oladipo, 5,400. He's averaging 25 across the last 3. Revenge game factor. I think this is an opportunity for Oladipo to actually put up some good numbers. Let's see how it works, but I think this is a good spot for him. Evan Fournier at 5,700 had a real bounce back in the last game. I think that he's decent value at 5,700 without being spectacular there. At small forward, Jeff Green started. He started to shit me though. At 4,000, no interest. Aaron Gordon at 5,600. Also no interest in using him in a tenuous bench role. And 3,800 for Andre Robertson. He had 29 in the last game. Let's count that as an outlier. And let's look at the 19 he's been averaging over the last 3. And that means that we probably don't want to use him, nor do we really want to touch Jeremy Grant. Power forwards, Domantas Sabonis is at 4,000. He's been a little bit below par in the last couple of games. This is not really a revenge situation against the team that drafted him, but there's a chance that he exceeds 20 points here. So I think that he can be used as a filler in lineups, and I think you should feel pretty confident of him getting 27-ish minutes and real chance to exceed 20 points. Enes Kanter at 5,000. I tentatively like Kanter here. He had 28 in the last game, and this is a situation against a team that has too many big men to even know what to do with them. So we know that if teams go small, Kanter finds himself in trouble. Orlando can't go small. They can run Bismack out there. They can run Vucevic out there. They run Ibaka out there. Or they put Aaron Gordon at the 4. They can't run small. So Cantor feels like he's going to get his 20 minutes, and he feels like he could easily put up a 20 and 10. That's what he can do. So I think that he's a real chance to exceed $5,000 of value in this game. As for Serge Ibaka, 5,200 for Ibaka. I don't know what to say. He's very, very bad at the moment. I know it's a revenge game, but I just don't think he's got it in him anymore. Can't do it. Steve Adams at 5,100 struggled in the last game, only 12.5 points in that one. The matchup is a lot tastier here. I think you can consider using him. In fact, I think he's one of the better options, but I wouldn't have overall huge confidence. And I've got zero confidence in Nick Vucevic or Bismack Biyombo, because we just don't know what Frank Vogel's going to do with that rotation, unfortunately. The next game we'll take a look at, the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. There's a real chance that this one is out of control. We're very early. The Warriors are favoured by 16 and the total is a massive 230. We don't know if Tyson Chandler is playing, still dealing with the loss of his mother. Let's look at the point guards. Steph, 8,900. He's blown up the Suns previously before. He's red hot at the moment, averaging 47 over his last 3. But what if he plays 29 minutes? It's the concern. In a tournament, if the Suns inexplicably keep it close, I think Steph is a really good play, but shit, it's hard to see them keeping it close. At point guard for the Suns, Bledsoe's at 7,700. He's been giving us this low 30s value, but at 7,700, it's too expensive. Not for me. Sean Livingston's no interest either, obviously. At shooting guard, Clay, it's the same thing with Steph. He's at 5,800 though, so I feel a little bit better about 5,800 even in cash for Clay, because he doesn't need too much to actually return that sort of value. As for Brandon Knight, well, forget that. And Devin Booker at 6,500 just feels like he's $500 too overpriced, so I think I'll leave him alone. At small forward, TJ Warren at 6,100. He's about the only guy on the Suns I feel really confident about him just getting 30 points on most nights, so this is a pretty good spot to use him, I think. And Kev Durant at 9,500. If I'm spending big at small forward, which is a fine strategy, it's LeBron. It's not Kevin Durant that I'm taking. Yeah, Durant might get me 40, but LeBron should get me 50. And you got to pay 400 more for LeBron. So I think the value is there. Durant's fine, but again, the same risk as Steph, the same risk as Clay. Iguodala has no daily fantasy value. At power forward, Draymond's at 8,400. There is the minutes risk there, but I don't feel like there's as much of a risk with Durant or as there is with Durant and with Curry. I think if you're spending up on a power forward, Draymond's the guy that you want, but I'm not sure that spending up on power forward is necessarily the best way to go about constructing a lineup. Jared Dudley's at 3,700. Some big games in the last couple. Playing big minutes, putting up big scores. Can you use him? I think you can consider it. I think in a tournament you can, but who knows what Watson's going to do from on a night-to-night basis. Marquise Chris at 3,500 minimum salary. Sure, in a tournament, but what if he has a stinker? He had a good one today, but that hasn't happened in the other games. At centre, Chandler at 4,800. If he plays, not a bad spot, but it's also a terrible spot for big men to play against Golden State. So it's risky to use him. It's risky to use Alex Len, even if Chandler is not there. And Zaza Pachulia, I don't hate at 3,600. It's minimum salary, basically. He can go out there and put 24 or 25 up there in 20 minutes. In a tournament, sure, that's really all it is, but his minimum salary and he's a starting centre in name, maybe worth getting some extra minutes out of him. If you really want to go balls out, you can go JaVale McGee at minimum salary, who had 18 in the last game and who's earned some extra minutes in the rotation. So it'll be interesting to see how Steve Kerr actually distributes those minutes as we move forward. The last game of the night is the plenty mentioned Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers are favoured by 5.5, and the total is 216 points here. Let's look at the point guards. Emmanuel Mudiay, he's just giving you 30 almost every night at the moment. He's at 5,800. The Dame Lillard defense shouldn't concern you whatsoever, so he's a solid-ish play at 5,800. As for Lillard, 9,300. Nice matchup for him. Hasn't quite been where he needs to be as of late, only averaging 32 across the last 3 and 37 across the last 5, which is way below what you want at 9,300, but this is a real opportunity for him against a team who is struggling. Jamal Murray, Jameer Nelson, pretty risky to use those guys. At shooting guard, Gaz Harris is at 4,500. I think that's solid in cash, not much tournament upside. Alan Crabb at 3,900. I'm not a big Crabb fan, but that's a really cheap price. And with the extra minutes he'll likely to see, with Evan Turner not playing at all, with no Al Farouk Aminu, I think that Crabb can scrounge his way to 20, and he's got ability to actually go higher than that as well. So I don't hate using Alan Crabb, and that's not something I say very often. CJ McCollum at 7,400. He's been torching teams lately. He's got a good history against Denver. This is a good spot for him. This is a really good opportunity to use McCollum, and I think it should work out in your favour. At small forward, Mo Harkless, I love it, only 4,500. The minutes are there, the role is there. The production hasn't been awesome, but at 4,500, it doesn't need to be that awesome. If he gets 25 points, then you're well ahead of value, and I think that's what he can do. Hate the Rooster at 6,000. Danilo Gallinari, I just don't think there's much chance of, or not much chance of him consistently getting to 30 points, so I reckon we can leave him alone. While Wilson Chandler at 5,200, I think that's not a bad option if you're looking for a small forward that maybe will be under-owned. At power forward, 3,600, Myers Leonard. He played 29 minutes in the last game, put up 19 points. Can we rely upon it? Absolutely not. But if we hear that he's starting and we're looking for a cheap power forward, Leonard's a guy to go for. Nick Jokic, no. 5,200, no trust whatsoever. Ken Fareed at 5,100, also no. Davis, Wancho, Noah Vonleh. Noah Vonleh started, played 25 minutes and didn't play in the next game. I don't know what to make of this guy whatsoever. At centre, Mason Plumlee, 5,200, one of the better centre plays on the board. The minutes have been well up, the production's been fine. He's probably going to get 10 minutes of going against Kenneth Fareed, so that's probably going to work in his favour as well. Yusuf Nurkic, you can't trust that at 5,500. No chance whatsoever. Alright, that is the action over for Sunday's games. Let's take a look at the DFS picks of the day. On FanDuel, we've got Kyrie at 75 and Steph at 89. Shooting guards, Krabby at 39 and Zachary Levine 62. The small forwards, Mo Harkless 45, TJ Warren 61 and LeBron James at 9,900. For the power forwards, Myers Leonard at 36 in a tournament, Enes Kanter 5,000 and Draymond at 84. For the centres, Zaza 36, Mason Plumlee 52 and Karl Anthony Towns 8,600. Over on DraftKings, Iman Shumpert at 3,300. I like him on DraftKings, not so much on FanDuel. Rubio at 55 and Lillard at 87. For the shooting guards, Alan Crabb at 41, Vic Oladipo 52, Mo Harkless 49, Wigo at 6,600 and LeBron at 9,900. At power forward, Leonard minimum salary 3,000, Love 76, Draymond 8,000, and the centres, Cody Zeller at 4,000. I like that really cheap price there. Mason Plumlee 52 and Karl Anthony Towns 8,300. We're done. Subscribe if you listen to this on iTunes. Tell your friends. Share it on your social media. Retweet it. Listen to the other Locked On podcasts. Go to Basketball Monster. We're going to have a scheduled article out tomorrow. Lots of DFS articles that go out 5 days of the week from Greg Ehrenberg as well. Great interactive forum, player comments, all that stuff over on Basketball Monster. If you're on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, give it a subscription. That would be awesome. We are done, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Michael Malone.